My name is Jeremy Horst. I'm a postdoctoral fellow in the Derisi lab here at UCSF in Mission Bay. So I'm a pediatric dentist and biochemist, and putting those two things together, I've been focused for a long time on figuring out how to stop cavities from happening, especially in really young children and disabled people, people for which getting a filling, which is pretty routine for most of us, would really affect their lives dramatically. And so I study the bacteria that cause cavities. And I'm trying to figure out what could prevent them, what could stop them, what we can do in terms of a natural intervention, such as eating more healthy or taking certain vitamins that could allow our bacteria to grow in a more healthy way so that, in particular, the folks that are really affected by cavities wouldn't have to deal with that. All the time, kids are put to sleep in the hospital under general anesthesia to get their teeth worked on. And it's a totally preventable disease, so it seems kind of silly. So here I'm using all the resources that we have at UCSF, molecular analysis, structure of proteins, drug discovery, looking at what small molecules, what bacteria, what genes, what foods we could use to keep people healthy. So I was born and raised here in San Francisco, so it's nice to still be around home. I grew up doing a paper route and just kind of got interested in what it was to work from a young age. Talked to a lot of people about what they did. And I started getting interested in the medical field just because the ability to help people, work with people, not sit behind a computer all the time, and ask lots of questions. I was just really curious. So that's why I started going into science, was that there was no answer to some of my questions. Usually in the laboratory, I'm doing two different things. One is that I grow these bacteria that cause cavities and do different things to them to see how it affects their ability to grow and how they make acid, because cavities are pretty simple. Bacteria get exposed to sugar, they turn it into acid, the acid dissolves the tooth, that hole is a cavity. So I basically grow these bacteria and see how they make acid, how they change the pH. And so I might put in a drug or a vitamin or a gene to block some part of their metabolism. I might put two bacteria together and watch how they grow. Those kinds of things. So specific, I'd bring it out the freezer, I'd put a little, basically some water on it, get those bacteria swimming around, and then expose them to broth that smells a lot like top ramen, and incubate them, which just means put them in higher temperature, like body temperature, and then take out little samples and put them in some of the different machines we have to see how many bacteria are in there and what the pH is. Stick a little pH probe like you have in your high school chemistry lab into the sample. And I also am looking at the genes in these bacteria, how they turn them on, which genes they have. So I'll grow up a whole bunch of the bacteria and then take their DNA and then prepare it for our sequencing machine, where it will read out every single letter of the genome, of the genes that give the blueprints of life to these bacteria, and see which ones are turned on and which ones are turned off when they're making lots of acid or when they get exposed to a drug that stops them from making acid. And so then there's some time at the computer figuring out how all that stuff lines up and putting all the pieces together. I guess that's missing an important part, which is talking to other people. And so a lot of the science world is about talking to other people that have other ideas, sharing your work with each other. So everyone that I've found has been very welcoming. If you're curious and you're willing to work a little bit hard to ask your questions, if you find yourself curious and you poke around the internet to look for the answer to your questions, that's what we do. Science is filled with people that just started asking questions, and then it's our job as sort of maturing scientists, as people along the way, to take care of the new folks. So there's always sort of a continuum of people just coming into science, whether they're in high school or in college or after college, and people that are a couple steps ahead that bring younger students along to train them in the specific skills, whether it's moving around little bits of liquid or sequencing their DNA or writing computer programs or bashing on things to see how hard they can take it. That's what we do. That's from professors to research scientists and postdoctoral fellows on down. We all train each other, and so it's a very welcoming environment. from any walk of life. So really why I got here was just asking questions and being curious. And I think that's really what defines us as humans. Everybody's curious. You see something you don't understand, you want to look into it and figure it out. And so the amazing opportunity I think that we have in science now is that we can ask pretty much any question you can imagine. And so that's why I came here to this laboratory, is that they're famous for asking any question. If there's no tool to ask it, we'll invent a new tool. By asking questions, I ended up in science. And there's so many opportunities these days to get people that are curious and intrigued by discovery into the fold. So come on out.